Welcome, everybody. We are so thrilled that you're here coming to our Courage to Leap, Embrace the Power of Risk. I'm Teresa Lysam, and I'm here with my friend and business partner, Diane Amelia Reed. And we're so thrilled that you're here. We have some audience today, so thank you for being here, Deb. We appreciate that. And I want to
You're very
ask you
welcome.
a question, rhetorical. What if the life you're dreaming of is waiting on just on the other side of fear? Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
So we have a couple of examples we want to share with you. So, what I say, 3 years ago, me and my husband made the decision to move from Northeast Ohio, where we live our entire lives entirely, to Northern Nevada. Um, the decision was made in a rather short period of time, and we had no clue what to do. We were like little kids, like, what do we do now? So it was a process, it was an emotional roller coaster, and we took the action and took the risk and decided to go for it, better now than never. And we ended up moving cross country so we could be by our grandkids in the same town as our grandkids. And yeah, I'm delighted to be there. I love when on Wednesdays, they come off the bus and stay at my house for about a half hour because I just happen to be there. So there's a lot of advantages to being that close. Whereas in the past, I was watching on FaceTime or whatever, from clear across the country. And it took me a day to get there. So it's been great. I'm enjoying it thoroughly, absolutely love it. But that was a scary, but yet exciting risk that we decided to take. It was huge. It was absolutely huge for us personally. So I know you have a big risk story as well, Diane. Can you share
I
your
do.
ginormous risk?
I do. And it was not a risk that I planned for, but I had in a long backstory that I'll keep to one sentence. I got really shut down as a kid around music. And I loved to sing, but I'd had that derided, and so I just zipped it. But fast forward, I was also told girls don't play drums, so
Mm.
gave that up and that dream up and played the flute instead. So fast forward a bunch of decades, I started playing percussion with a Brazilian music group that had singers. And of course, I did not sing a peep, but I memorized every single word of every single song. And, when I was out on my rollerblades by myself, I was singing at the top of my lungs and memorizing, these Brazilian lyrics. And then one night at rehearsal, the singer for one particular song didn't show up. And the leader turned to me and he said, "Do you know this song?" And I just went, and he said, "Well, get up there and do it." And that was a life-changing moment for me because I did get up there and do it. And, I was like choking in the back of my throat the whole time. But I got up there. I had never sung in front of a band, into a mic, in Portuguese, in public. It was a huge, huge thing. But I knew if I didn't, I would hate myself for the rest of my life. And the fear of hating myself in that moment was bigger
Mhm.
than the fear of stepping up to the mic. So I got up, I nailed it. And I remember thinking, this is awesome.
Mhm.
And the thing that was so important was in that moment, I redefined my self-image.
Mhm. Mhm.
So one of the things we're going to talk about is the three R's: the risk, reflect, and refine. So what about you, Deb? Do you have a big scary risk you've done?
I don't really have one yet, but similar to you, Teresa, my husband and I both want to have our own business. Well, I have my own professional organizer business, and but it's in the growing stage. So it's been challenging. and I have a full-time job, so it's kind of taken a big backseat, which kind of makes me sad. But so I haven't really had time to dedicate to it. And he's working on building his own business, but where we live is very expensive, and it's just we have to have full-time jobs right now, and
Mhm.
in order to pay the bills. So, but we do have a risk that we haven't done, and we need to plan. We want to move somewhere warmer because
Mhm.
right now it's maybe 15 degrees outside. We did get some snow up
Mhm.
here. We probably had
Oh.
probably had about 5 or 6 inches of snow. We had to take off our cars. So we want to be somewhere warmer and somewhere where there's a less cost of living. And so I wouldn't say I've taken the risks, but I have some that I am dreaming of doing.
Mm. You have to pull the trigger at some point, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so this is a great segue into a little conversation about why stepping out of our comfort zone feels so scary.
Mm.
And part of it has to do with us just straight up being mammals. Mammals
Hmm.
like familiar.
Yeah.
Mammals do not really like change. Change is inherently risky because, you know what you know. And even though intellectually you might know if I make this other choice,
Yeah.
it's going to be so much better.
Hmm.
We love what's familiar,
Yeah. Yeah.
even when familiar sucks.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
familiar. And so we tend we tend to stay there.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
Yes.
Comfortable. That's why they call it the comfort zone.
Yeah. But like you said, even when it's uncomfortable, it's still familiar. I mean, how many stories we've all heard about that? People staying in a toxic relationship or whatever because they fear the unknown. We tend to fear what we don't know and what's not familiar.
But fear is not the enemy.
Mm.
Fear is actually a sign that you're pushing an edge, maybe a sign that you're growing a little bit. So if you feel fear, it's not a bad thing. It's just information. It's like, oh, I'm brushing up against something unfamiliar. I don't know about this. So it could be a sign to explore, to dive deeper, as opposed to run away.
Mhm.
So risk, taking risks, the very nature of risk is different for everyone. There might be folks who grew up in a military family and they moved all the time. And so a cross country move ain't
Right,
no thing.
right.
And there are people who will karaoke till the cows come home and, singing into a mic in public, no big deal. But the idea of a move, if
Mhm.
that's not your background, is scary. And it certainly was heart stopping for me to sing into that mic. So there is no right or wrong risk. Risk is not about bungee jumping.
Right.
I mean, it could be for some people, but
Mhm.
for other people, it could just be having a difficult conversation. It feels
Mhm.
so risky because, I'll lose this friendship or this marriage or this
Mhm.
job or whatever it might be if I open my mouth. It's too risky. I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
not
right.
going to speak my truth. And that has its own kind of trickle out effect.
Yeah, just going to an event by yourself is very risky for some people. Um, just going to eat out. I remember somebody talking about eating at a restaurant by herself was just so overwhelming for her, or going to a movie on her own. It was just really out of her comfort zone. So it doesn't have to be really huge and all encompassing. It can just be something, I don't want to say small because in our own minds, it's kind of big, even though it's just a little situation or a little event.
But it is everyday life stuff. And for
It
some
is.
people, it feels easy. And for other people, it
Mhm.
just feels like pushing a boulder up a mountain.
Mhm.
So let's just get real for a second and and identify one area in our lives where we have been holding back.
So
And
many
take,
to pick from.
yeah,
We got to only pick one. I mean, like you said, it could just be just verbalizing our needs or our desires or our frustrations or our mm, new identity to somebody that's used to our old identity, you know. So just those can be where we're holding ourselves back because of fear.
I remember a woman that I worked with, her risk was to have a conversation with her husband and her son about doing the dishes.
Mm.
She was, you know, in a very traditional, traditional family. And she's like, this is not going to go down well. And I'm scared and I don't want to rock the boat. But ultimately, it just, she said, I'm not going to do the dishes anymore. And she just didn't. And and then she told stories about getting like little fruit flies and she gave them names, but she was not going to touch those dishes. So ultimately, I mean, that was one way to make a point, but ultimately she enlisted the help of her husband and her son to do the dishes and was hugely relieved
Mm.
to just have done it, and then thought in a more expanded way of herself once she had that conversation and the dishes got clean. Deb, is there one little place where you might be thinking, I'm holding back here?
I would say probably using my social media for my organizing business. I've kind of put it on the back seat because I have an in-person job and I use the excuse I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired. I stand on my feet like 8 hours a day. So and I have interesting hours and work every other weekend. So I guess, and I haven't, I mean, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of using, I feel like I'm using it as an excuse. Like, oh, no, I'm not going to post. I'm too tired. How am I going to grow my organizing business? And then I start, the pity party.
Mm. But I applaud you for having that awareness and being able
Yeah.
to admit that to yourself and to
Thank,
us. So thank you.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it seemed like you had something you wanted to say.
no, this
So
is good for me. I'm not usually the okay front on camera person. And so it's good for me.
Well, it's a little risk then you've taken here.
Yeah, I
So
guess I have.
congratulations.
and that really brings us beautifully and into the 3 R's. So, and you provide us with a great real-time example. So now you've just taken this risk. You shared a vulnerability, a personal thing, and that has given you a new identity. You
Mm.
are now someone who
Mhm.
speaks on camera.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess I am. So right before the you have the risk, it's like in 3 sections. It's before the risk, it's in the middle of doing it, and then it's the moment after. So when you notice these 3 points, do you have enough distance from this? I mean, I realize it's been about 90 seconds, but to think about like how you felt when I asked you, how you felt when you were actually speaking, and then how you felt about yourself right after.
I was definitely nervous before and then maybe a little bit during, but do feel better afterwards. Like more calm and okay, I can do this.
Yes, you can. And this is a great risk reflect, which you just did, and then refine. So sometimes risking, oh, sorry, I just had a brain cramp. Sometimes when we risk, if we then reflect, which is the second R, even like in a journal, or make a point to talk with your friend about it, it anchors in what comes next, which is refining. Teresa, do you want to just talk a little bit about the process of refining?
Well, I was just going to say, now that you've taken this little risk and you feel better about yourself and you've kind of redefined yourself of somebody who speaks up on camera and in a group. Because I know I wouldn't speak up in a group for years and years and years. So that was part of me. But now you want to like carry that momentum forward. And you have this little risk taken activity in your bank, in your little bank account. And now how can you leverage that and use that to move you forward and take maybe a bigger risk or repeat a similar risk, in the future. So we want to leverage what just happened here in real time.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
That makes
Very
sense.
cool.
And an idea is coming to me because now you just earned yourself the identity of, yeah, I can speak in a group on camera. If you want to start factoring it in, getting on networking calls, joining a networking group, and speaking on
Right.
camera to identify yourself as a professional
Mhm.
organizer.
Yeah.
Now you know you can do it. You know that you feel, yeah, sure, there might be a little before, but it's okay.
Mhm.
And you know what you're talking about. You have the poise to present yourself.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
that's a place where you could definitely leverage it.
And it can be baby steps. I mean, I'm a baby stepper, so I do little baby steps. So like I might go to one networking group and have everything, my little script ready, and just have those butterflies in my stomach and go do my little 30-second thing and then be relieved when it's my turn is over with. I speak from experience. But that's just the more you repeat something, the more confidence you get, and the more, like you said, you anchor it. I like the way you said that, Diane. It anchors into you, and that identity grows bigger and bigger within yourself.
Yeah, I love that you say that because there, Deb, I think you're familiar with the compound effect,
Mm,
how little pebbles on the pile ultimately create
Right.
a mountain. And so small cumulative risks can really provide profound transformation. And I know, so after I did that one song at a rehearsal, I ended up singing one song at a gig, then 5, then 12, and then I
okay.
started a band that I had for 13 years. And nothing made me happier than just belting out songs I love. And I think if I hadn't done that one thing that one
Mhm.
time, I would not have had that
Right,
soul-filling joy.
Mm,
right,
right.
right.
So and there were a lot of little yeses along the way. Yeah, I guess a guitar player might want to work with me. It's just like, and that was terrifying because, Deb is a musician and
Cool.
and a studied musician, and I am not, and I get super intimidated. So it was like, would a guitar player want to be in my band? Why would they want to be? Terrible thinking.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
think
but you took the risk.
Yep, yep. So even though you were feeling that trepidation and that like, would they really want to work with me? You still moved forward. You still took the step. I still go to networking groups even though I feel I feel that anxious feeling right beforehand. I mean, it doesn't really go away for some of us. But you just know you could do it because you've done it before. And like you said, it will get bigger and that comfort zone will just push further and further out until, you know, you're, you are pretty comfortable in that particular role or identity of yourself. So I'm going to ask you and the group who's watching this, what's one bold step you might like to take in the coming month or maybe this week or maybe later today if fear wasn't holding you back? Hmm, something to think on. What's one bold step you'd like to take in the coming, put in your own time frame there, if fear wasn't holding you back? That is huge.
That
That
is
is
huge.
huge. That is
Teresa,
huge.
do you have a thought?
Do I have a thought? Oh man. I don't know if my brain can work that fast. Um, so I'm going to say not right at the tippy top of my head. But I'm sure if I thought about it, I could come up with a whole list of stuff. Because I've heard this before, if we didn't have that fear, or if we were able to reframe it and reframe the fear as being our friend, being information, being a, a way of just recreating ourselves or stepping into that new identity. I mean, I really love that idea of the reframe. And what if I didn't have that fear, or if I thought fear was my friend, or I've been through fear before, I could do it again. And how's that going to look this time? So there's all kinds of ways of talking to yourself about it, reframing, coming in with a new perspective.
And the thing about nervousness is sometimes we misread it because it's actually excitement.
Yep.
And it's like, ooh, I'm going to do something new, and it
Yeah,
feels kind of
I love that.
exciting. And job interviews can be like that, where you're nervous in advance, but if you just walk in and own it and say, I'm really nervous because I'm so excited about this opportunity, then that lets you own it, lets you take a sigh of relief, also tells the potential employer that you're psyched about working there, not just getting a job, and understanding that nervousness has more, expresses more things than just fear.
Yeah, it's what we label it. Or do we need to label it?
Maybe
Just,
not.
Very
just,
true.
it's just energy. It's just a feeling that we're feeling. It's up to us to interpret that in any way that we want.
Yeah, I like a quote that we have here, and that's every bold version of you begins with a single step out of your comfort zone.
That's good. I love quotes. I
Mhm.
constantly am writing them down.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
very inspiring.
here. We can
Put it in the
pop it in
chat.
the chat.
Yeah, thank you. While you're doing that, Diane, I know we're coming to the end of our time together. So we're going to invite everybody who's watching this to commit to one actionable risk for the week or for the month. Again, insert your own time frame there. And this is for your own self. Hold yourself accountable, but commit to taking one actionable risk for you personally, whatever that may be. And if you want to come back to us and share with us, that would be awesome.
That would be so great. Yeah.
I think my risk is going to be to actually post on social media or
Ooh,
figure out where I should be posting that I get the most, audience and see what happens.
yeah, that's cool. Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's huge. We'll be looking for you.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Tag us in that post or posts.
Yeah, tag us and we'll spread the word.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
I don't know if I'd be, I might not put it on LinkedIn. So it's this weird thing because I have a full-time job, but I'm a professional organizer, but LinkedIn has me, I work at my job. So
Yeah.
I guess there's a balance, but I can find you as well on other platforms.
Yep, or on other platforms for sure. So
And,
we
oh,
do,
go ahead.
oh yeah, no, we want to finish this up by saying we do have something coming up fairly soon if it resonates with you and if it's something that would help you take some risk that you might have put on the back burner. And it's all around wellness on multiple levels. But we have a 4 week intensive coming up. We have lots of tools like we just shared with you. We have the opportunity to be accountable to somebody outside of yourself, outside of your head. And, we offer multiple ways of breaking through and just get some more in-depth help from both of us, both Diane and myself, and really help people expand their comfort zone. So if you want to share a little bit more about that, Diane, I'm going to turn it over to you. And
Yeah,
I know it's coming
I'll
up in
keep it quick,
February.
but we have this 4-week intensive that we do by cohort. So there, it's a small group. We limit it to 6 so that we really can give white glove attention to every single participant. And we are trying to help women, well, not trying because we have a track record. We help women leverage their personal strengths. And this is one of Teresa's superpowers is helping women identify their innate strengths, and then we leverage those to help you create a health and wellness plan. Now, you're already a Boom Tribe member, but this would
Mhm.
help you bring your own mindset, your strongest tools to help support, be the foundation under your health and wellness routine. But in the course of that, there's learning about, there's so much. There's learning about you, there's learning about energy, there's learning about how to forgive as a way of moving forward, whether that's forgiving yourself, a situation, another person, whatever it might be. Big energy shifts, big self-knowledge, all in a way to come together and help you create a wellness package that is livable, your life, your way. In fact, it's called Wellness Your Way.
Yeah. And sustainable,
Yeah,
for
that's,
you personally. Yeah.
yeah. So each woman goes away with her own specially crafted thing that matches her superpowers.
Mhm.
So that starts in 2 weeks. And if you're off next Monday and you are curious, you can pop in because we'll be doing a Q&A about it.
And we so
Sounds
appreciate
great.
you being here.
So before we bounce, do you have any cues? Any questions?
Do I have any questions? I don't think so. I'm just kind of more absorbing everything, and I thank you both. This was great.
Wonderful.
We squeeze a lot in a short period of time. But we know everybody's time is important to them, so we want to keep it short and compacted. And that's why we have the 4 weeks. So it's a 4 week intensive. So people need to be aware of that. It is very intense. There is accountability after that 4 weeks, but we pack those 4 weeks really full.
And in the meantime, you can remember risk, reflect, refine. Risk, reflect, refine.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Deb, for coming on, and for everyone who's
Thank you.
watching. We appreciate your time.
All right,
Oh,
my
you're
friends.
welcome. Thank you both as well. This is great.
Thanks, everybody. Remember next week, what's the date on that? The 27th of January, same time, same place. We can ask us anything and we'll answer them. Okay, my friends, thank you so much.
Bye for
Thanks for
now.
being here, Deb. Bye-bye.
Bye. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, Diane. Bye, Teresa.